But I'm the HUD's regional administrator for the Great Plains region, as Eileen stated, that includes East Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. And it's just great for me to be able to go out and get out of our offices and meet individuals that are out here doing this great work, and so that we can, at HUD, can learn and be a more effective partner. That's our job, and that is to be a better partner and help make these programs work. I'd like to take a few minutes, or just a few moments, to share with you HUD's mission. And HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality, affordable homes for all. And the question is, how do we do that? How do we accomplish that mission? And the answer to that is easy. How we accomplish it through the effective collaboration with our federal, state, local partners. We cannot do this job by ourselves. And as everyone knows, trying to do this work is difficult. But we are able to do it when we have collaboration, when we can all bring something to the table and get projects moved along. The fact that we're in a housing crisis isn't news to anyone here. With the escalating costs of housing and also the elevated rent rates, it makes doing this work a little difficult. But we do have certain tools that we can use to address our purpose and our mission. In addition to the crisis that we're in, we also have to be cognizant of the units that we're losing. We're losing low-income housing tax credit units in the region, and so we have to be mindful of how we're going to replace those. How are we going to address these issues and make sure that we provide housing and really homes and community to the individuals that we serve? Well, what is HUD FHA doing to address these? Because one of the things that we're doing, especially in the area of single-family housing, is to FHA earlier in 2022 reduce the mortgage insurance premium on mortgages, which is the amount that we charge in order to guarantee single-family mortgages. That was reduced by 30 basis points, and which resulted in a savings of $800 to the average borrower. Then adjusting, just really myth busting is what I call it. We have individuals that are really ready for homeownership, but they have misconceptions. Some that feel that in order to buy a house, I have to have 20% down payment. Though that's not correct, and with FHA mortgage, it's 3.5% down payment. Trying to address these issues, having forums to make sure that people have the correct information and that we can tell them how they can acquire homes. Doing something that former Secretary Marcia Fudge called the house park, where we have a one-stop shop and invite folks to the house party and have lenders there, have housing counseling agencies, have individuals that can help them with first-time homebuyer programs or down payment assistance programs, and to bring all these tools in one place so that individuals can be served. That's what we're doing on the single family, especially this whole idea of housing counselors. We have 16 housing counseling agencies in Missouri that can be accessed either in person or virtually that are there to help navigate individuals through the home buying process. In September of this year, we provided an additional $48 million to the housing counselors, and they can help as far as addressing and answering all the questions that individuals are having. Then, when we think about what are we doing on the multifamily side, sometimes we are addressing these issues. Sometimes we have to do what I call we have to do addition by subtraction. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Sounds cute, but what does it mean? Well, we have to look at what the programs that we have in our toolbox, and are we utilizing these programs effectively? For instance, the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, CNI, is a great example of what I mean by addition by subtraction. With the CNI, with choice neighborhoods, we take obsolete public housing, reduce it, demolish it, and replace it with mixed income housing. Making sure that we have the one-for-one replacement of the public housing. For example, here in the region, we have a project, a CNI project that we conducted in Kansas City, Missouri, and it was, we demolished 138 units of public housing and then replaced it with 308 units of mixed income housing. And making sure that we have the one-for-one replacement of the public housing that we demolished and replacing it with mixed income, an additional mixed income, resulting in 170 units of mixed income housing. So what was once 138 units is now 308 units of housing that's forked. And that's what I mean by just trying to think outside the box. What can we do to address this dilemma? Because when you think about it with this choice neighborhood, it is more than just housing. And like I said, the HUD mission is to create homes and community and not just housing. And so how do we do it? Well, we have to engage all of our partners to help us. And we are looking with respect to CNI, it's about people, neighborhoods, and housing. And so, for example, in Kansas City, one of the last phases of the project is directly across the street from a federally qualified health center, Samuel Rogers Health Center. And so it makes the connection between housing and health. And so what we're doing is working collaboratively with our other federal agencies, our federal partners, our state partners, as far as trying to provide more than just state-built housing, but creating homes and community. We have 4 choice neighborhoods projects in the region, and if you're ever up in Omaha, drive by the project there called Highlander, and it is really a beautiful project. And in fact, one of the most interesting things about Highlander is that there is a waiting list for the public housing, there's a waiting list for the tax credit housing, but there's also a waiting list for the market rate housing. Individuals that can live anywhere in the city, but they want to live in Highlander. So we're our partners, not HUD alone, but working to redevelop community. That project was helped by HUD making a $30 million implementation grant to help kickstart that project, and resulted in that property, that $30 million being leveraged many times over, resulting in 7 phases of a project. So I just wanted to talk with you about what else can be done. Well, we're working on something through the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which provided HUD with $1 billion in appropriation and $4 billion in loan authority. And what do we do with that? We set up something called the Green and Resilient Retrofit Program. And that program helps to redevelop multifamily FHA HUD-assisted multifamily properties that have a project-based assistance attached to it. And that also addresses Section 202 properties that are elderly, that have a project-based contract, and also projects that 811 projects that deal with disabilities. And so those programs, through this Green and Resilient Retrofit programs, those properties are able to be redeveloped and redeveloped in a way that is more climate resilient, more utility efficient, and that results in a direct benefit to the individuals who are living there. Because if the units are more climate resilient, more energy efficient, that results in lower utility bills. And it's a direct benefit that individuals can see every month. And it is something that helps renovate these properties, redevelop these properties, so that this housing exists for a much longer period of time and done so in a way that makes community and development. So we also, what else are we doing? Well, we got to address barriers to affordable housing development. If I see some developers out there and individuals that are engaging with cities and counties and local governments, political subdivisions, and they're trying to move their project along, but they get hit with all these fees. And the fees sometimes are regulation, and sometimes they're helpful, of course, and then sometimes not. But we need to kind of take a look at this to see if we're doing something in a way that is impeding housing development, or are we doing things to help? And so what HUD has done is to create something called a Notice of Funding Opportunity, an OFO, for what we call pathways to removing obstacles to housing, or what we call pro-housing. And we issued an OFO for $85 million for individuals to compete, really for political subdivisions that were already engaged. It provides funds to communities that have been actually taking steps and demonstrating progress in addressing local housing barriers. And so addressing these barriers that are restricting the ability of developers to develop housing. And so these funds are provided to these political subdivisions to help them take another look at their regulations to see, are there some things that we could be doing better? In the first round of funding, for the first $85 million that was available in this region, we were able to, the city of Iowa City, Iowa, received a $3,500,000 grant to do that work, to start the examination of their regulations to see whether there's something that can be done better. And then there's a second NOFO that just closed October 5th for $100 million for political subdivisions, cities, counties, to take a look at their regulations and see whether there are things that they can be done and things that can be done better. We're looking at our own, HUD is looking at its own regulations. We're looking at the home regs and to see what can be done there. How can we make the home program work better and more aligned with our partners, making it more aligned with making it easier to use with respect to low-income housing tax credit programs? What can we do to make things smoother and not be an impediment? So the final rule we went out with, provided a notice of rulemaking, so opportunity was provided to the public to make comment on the Federal Register, and the final rule will streamline program requirements for states and localities. It will better align home funding with other federal resources, and it will also encourage green and climate resilient building practices. We have to retool, I think, looking at some of the programs that we already have and how can we retool these programs? How can we make them better? For instance, with respect to manufactured homes, the lending limits on those have been woefully out of whack, have not been aligned with what is happening out in the public. So FHA developed new loan limits with respect to manufactured home loans. The manufactured home loan, previously loan limits were for a single unit, it was $69,678 on average. And now the manufactured home loan has been increased to $105,500, and for a multi-section, $193,000. And these are more in line with what is really more consistent with what's going on in the real world. So the loan limits have been increased, also making sure that we provide opportunity for addressing not only the manufactured unit, but also a loan to address acquiring the land underneath it. So HUD is aware and wants to make sure that we are a partner in addressing these issues. HUD has issued a NOFO in what we call the preservation and reinvestment incentives for community engagement, or what we call PRICE. And that is, HUD has issued a notice of funding opportunity of $235 million in competitive grant funding for the preservation and revitalization of manufactured housing and eligible manufactured housing communities. And I guess what we're saying is that we're looking at all of the programs that we have currently. We're looking at how the programs that are out here that you're utilizing, and how can these programs be retooled in order to make sure that they're more effective. But when it really gets down to it, what we're working to do is to try to build more effective community. And we understand that the country is getting older, I know I am, and so we need more senior housing. We need more 202s, more 811s. And so for that reason, HUD will continue to work with the state and local partners in advancing this. But I wanted to provide some time so that the individuals had questions. But one other thing, though, I wanted to make sure that one other thing I wanted to say is that there's something that we're doing in the region, is that we're working with something with our federal partners, HHS, EPA, FEMA, all of our federal partners, something that we call Fed Reach. And what it is that individuals sometimes trying to navigate some of the problems, trying to navigate the federal system, trying to navigate within HUD to identify what resources are available. How can I enter one door and be able to navigate and make sure that I am identifying the resources that are available. And so sometimes what we've done now is create something called Fed Reach, and what it does is that it's all of the federal partners. If there's identifying community needs and then identifying what HUD can bring to the table, what can EPA bring to the table, what can HHS bring to the table in order to address that need. And I think that's something that we're going to be doing more because it's more effective, and it's the ability that where we can make sure that we're addressing the issues in a more effective way.